broke the jaw off my deer. I knocked it over with my shoulder, hopping into my seat like an idiot, because I'm an idiot. And I do things sometimes without thinking about it, or I do things without ever realizing what I'm doing. And then sometimes you wake up in the morning and you fill up a cup of coffee, or you go out and get coffee like I did. And you sit there and you read your personal training book, and you get up, you stop reading, you look up, and then you start watching people. And then when you start watching these people, you start watching these people for, minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then, boom, you have this thought. And this is 2 minutes with Mike in my brain. Or is it my brain? And I was sitting there, and I'm looking around, and I'm starting to think, like, all these people are in here getting coffee. All of us have different tasks that we need to complete today. All of us have different stimulants that we've already experienced and that we're going to continue to experience throughout the day. And then I started thinking about other species around the world. Getting up, doing the thing, stretching. If you have a dog, you watch a dog stretch every morning. That's the equivalent of coffee for us. Different tasks they need to get done. Complex, less complex, but still complex. I couldn't do what a dog does. They can't do what I do. And then if you can remove organs, you can remove all the organs. Let's say I have a cheetah, me, and a dog. We remove the heart, they die. We get it. We all die. I remove the heart from me, a cheetah, a domesticated dog. We all die. You remove a spleen, they'll have trouble. But if you move the brain, it will lose its personality. It will lose its characteristics. It will lose its ability to do anything. And then I started, and this is all happening while I'm drinking coffee. And then I started having this thought, like, what if, like, instead of classifying a different species with a different name because of its physical appearance, and that's usually how we come up with species ideas, right? Different species are classified a certain way because of their appearance. Like, I would never classify another cheetah as a group of cheetahs if it looked like a dog. Like, it would be a cheetah. What if, like, the physical exterior of all these species was just like the exterior of one species, the brain? And the brain comes in just many different forms. And then the result of the different species, aka the different brain, is just a different physical appearance. And I don't know, I just started thinking about the brain and the way that it is. Everybody has one. Like, anything that's alive has a brain, or at least has a function on a headquarters within their physical outward or physical shell that controls their thoughts, develops a personality, develops characteristics, develops what's right and wrong in society according to what they think and what they break down certain events as. And then I've always had this thought, and so today in 2019, murder, rape, and then outshoots from all those different things. So murder, whether it be adult on adult or infanticide or whatever it is, whatever type of murder it is, whatever type of rape it is, heterosexual, so female with a male or male with a female or male, female, whatever it is. Those are considered the most benevolent crimes you could do. Like, those are the most outrageous and unthoughtful ideas that we collectively share that are the root of evil. Like, that's evil. Taking another person's life or completely altering someone's life forever psychologically through the action of forceful sexual attainment. And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about other species and their idea to classify those two acts as not nearly as gruesome as humans do. And you hear it all the time. Humans are just more advanced and more intelligent. And when I first heard that, it was, yes, of course, 100%. they are most advanced. And then it made me think, okay, well, why do we consider those two acts so monstrous? And we call it's very animalistic. It's very disgusting. Humans don't do that. Some humans do that. Some humans do that, and they treat it, quote unquote, very animalistic. And it's like, if you're looking at it just from a pure biological level, and it's so hard to, it's rough. It can get, there's no answer to it. And this is just a thought I had, and just something that popped up in my head, and that's what this podcast is for. Right or wrong, it just popped up in my head. It's like the best time, male and female, to produce a child that is most minimally affected with mental illness, or a child that will develop into a person who could develop another healthy child. So pass down your genes, like, so the biological reason. The best age for that would be young. I mean, 15 all the way to 25, and then after that, things start going haywire, and the female doesn't start, it can't produce a child as healthy. The risk of an unhealthy child gets higher the older you get. Same thing for males. And then I started thinking about other species, and it's like, it's crazy because I can sit here and I can be like, okay, it's not just about me. It's about my children, and it's about my children's children. It's about my grandparents, and it's about representing a family, and I don't want to embarrass other people. So I had to act like a good civilian under certain civilian rules, laws, regulations, whatever it is. Because I don't want to disappoint, or I don't want to be an embarrassment to my clan, so my kinship. And it's like that ability to think about the future and think about the past, especially the future. And so these species of animals, they don't have that, at least from the things I read, like a cheetah and a lion, they have offspring, but it's about raising their offspring, and that's it. That's it. It's about, and some animals have it differently, like some, like dolphins and elephants and whatnot, but it's this idea that we collectively, as a human species, needs to act a certain way. And that is a good thing, right? I mean, that allows us to develop different government organizations that supply struggling people with the ability to find comfort financially, or whatever it is. Government-funded daycare centers, government-funded police departments, fire departments. And it's this idea of a collective species at its healthiest level. And for other animals, it's not. It's my tribe, my group of chimps, or my group of dolphins, or my hyena pack needs to survive. And whatever it takes to survive. So murder, so rape, whatever it takes to pass down their genes to another generation. And it's insane. It gets crazier when you think about it. Like, let's think about the most horrific human events of all time, like the human events that people don't even like to talk about, and sometimes we don't even think about. And like Holocaust, like the Rwanda genocide. I think, let me look that up. I want to say 300. So between April to July, so in 4 months, between 500,000 to 1 million people died. That's 120. That's about 120 days. Right? April, May, June, July, 4 months, 1 million people. That's about 8,333 people died. And then you just keeps on going. Just goes on and on and on. And it doesn't stop. And it happens frequently. I mean, to think about, I mean, the Holocaust. I mean, that's the biggest one that people think of. The Cambodian genocide, between 1.3 million to 3 million. The Soviet Socialist Class Republic in 1931 to 33, 1.3 to 1.8 million people. The Ireland famine, 775 to 1.5 million people. The Armenian genocide, Indonesian genocide, the Rwanda genocide, Greek genocide, Zungar, Bangladesh, Ustasi, um, Serbian, indigenous peoples in Brazil, the Ruhu, the Irish. It just keeps going on and on and on. And and if you look at these dates are, modern days. I mean, most of them are in the 1900s, and most of them, some of them are not. Some of them are farther back. But it makes you think. It's like the way that like all these genocides happen, like the root cause of it is you can't kill that many people unless you can look at those people and treat them like they're not people and treat them like they're objects. And I'm bringing all this up because of this book I read, and it's like you see it all the time where you can treat the opposition, even though they may look just like you, they may have a family just like you. You can treat the opposition like they are nothing. And you use words like cockroaches. Anything that takes the humanity out of the opposition, then you can gain control, and then you can take over these groups of people and wipe them out. And it's crazy to think that all throughout human history, 200,000 years, those are the estimates as of right now, of Homo sapiens, our brain is the most functioning and the most highly intellectual and advanced thing in the world, at least on this planet. But it still has these laps of a million people dying in 4 months. And at the same time, it has people like Elon Musk who are going to fly to Mars and landing on the moon and whatever it is. And it's like this array of human, it's like dichotomy of the human nature. It's so vast. Like you would think after 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 500,000 people, there would be a better attempt to stop. But it's so, I don't want to say it's like wired in our DNA, but to watch stuff happen like that, you would think it would be extremely shocking, but it's not. You see it all the time. People, it's like it doesn't affect you until it does. And I don't know. And I always have like a knee-jerk reaction when people say humans are the most advanced animals in the world, and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, if the world was run by bear or coyote or whatever, do you think they would just constantly kill their own species? Like, do you really think that if it was just alligator, or not alligators, they're kind of dinosaurs, but like just bear everywhere, do you think bear would just start wiping each other out without a need? I mean, not many animals do that. A lot of animals kill. I mean, sometimes they kill for fun, but usually it's for a need. I mean, they don't have a imagination that makes up gods and makes up human rights and makes up money, government. It's like, can I pass down my genetics? And what's the best way to do that? Killing a bunch of other things that look like me. I mean, that may not be the best way. Maybe a few here and there, but if they're on my territory or whatever. But like that idea of just wiping out millions of people, it sounds so absurd, but it's not. I mean, it's not. It happens all the time. I mean, the Rwanda genocide wasn't like, wasn't fucking, it was 1994. Those people are still alive. These people are still alive. I don't know. Our brains are just so complex, and we don't know what we are. Humans have an idea of what we want to be. We have an idea of who we are. But for as advanced as we are, a map controls where and where we can't go. I mean, think about that. Depending on where your parents procreated you, and then you popped out, you came out of the womb of your mother. Depending on what side of the dirt you were born, what side of the ocean you were born, that's who you are. I mean, that is insane. It's so outrageous. Like, if I saw I don't know, let's just say, I don't want to be inaccurate. If I saw, trying to look up, I don't want to get all these countries wrong. Like, if there was a giraffe that was walking around in Central African Republic, and then crossed into Chad or crossed in Nigeria or crossed in South Sudan, it wouldn't be like, oh, you're a giraffe, you're not from this country. But humans, we do this. We collect into like these tribes, and then we move. And if you don't follow our tribe's ideas or rules, instead of just walking past each other, we like kill each other. Like, we just kill. We kill. You can't ignore, or you can't understand that, oh, you were a baby and you were raised to believe this certain thing. So it's like we are advanced in many ways, but sometimes we are the most animalistic creatures in the world, worse than any other animals you can imagine. I don't know, and I don't like. And it's complicated because you don't want to make it sound like humans are the worst species ever, but I mean, we've done our fair share of killing over things that are made up in our head, like the Crusades. I mean, if you're religious, Catholic or Christian, Jewish, whatever you are, it's a belief. It's in your head. The book I read by Yuval Noah Harari says it like, let me look it up. Look up one of his quotes that I find very interesting. Here's one right here. This is the one I'm looking for. Maybe this is it. Okay. So listen to this quote. How did Homo sapiens manage to cross a critical threshold, eventually founding cities comprising tens of thousands of inhabitants and empires ruling hundreds of millions? The secret was probably the appearance of fiction. Large numbers of strangers can cooperate successfully by believing in common myths. Any large-scale human corporation, whether a modern state, think about it, state's not a real thing, it's made up. A medieval church, an ancient city, or an archaic tribe is rooted in common myths that exist only in people's collective imagination. And that's it's like, you don't want to believe that, but it's true. Could you imagine, like, if one day we all woke up, yes, tomorrow, and we all sat there at the same time and we all just devalued money? I mean, it just happened in China. I mean, don't quote me on it, but I think China like devalued their money supply. I mean, the government just regulated that, and it affected our economy. I was explaining to somebody what the stock market is. It's crazy. The stock market is literally it's a transaction of purchases and selling of a company that is only a company because people value it. And the way that the stock market goes under is by a reaction of human emotion. Like, if I see, like when Elon Musk put out that tweet, I think he said, like, taking Tesla private again. the stock market plummeted for Tesla. And it's like the reason why it plummeted is because everyone got scared and took money out. And it's like the stock market is an extremely expensive roller coaster that actually doesn't exist, but all of us have a different idea of what it looks like. And then the way we react controls how intense the roller coaster is and how long it can be smooth. And sometimes it speeds up and slows down. Sometimes it hits its brakes. But it's like a collective imagination of human thought. It's like one big brain. I mean, here's another one right here. I really like his book. I highly recommend his books. I mean, if anything, they're very thought-provoking. They allow you to just take your brain places where they normally don't go. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. Happiness is not the surplus of pleasant emotion over unpleasant moments. Rather, happiness consists in seeing one's life in its entirety of meaningful and worthwhile. That's not the one that I thought it was. I don't think it may not have been him. It may have been I think he has a really cool part of his book where he goes into, and this sounds like it's just an advocation for you to go read his book, but he has really cool, and this was part of the book that shook me kind of, and I almost wanted to put the book down because I was kind of angry. Like I had a knee-jerk reaction again to it. Like I didn't want to continue reading because it kind of, I mean, honestly, it made me upset when I read it. Human rights, as he states, it's not a real thing. Like the rights that humans have are not true things. And when he said that, it's going to be really hard for me to break it down. I'm going to try my hardest, though. Let me just read his quote real quick. Basically, the way he breaks it down is saying that there's certain things that you do and you do not do to others. And that is in the same sense that he says being homosexual is a lot of people who are against homosexuality. They state it in the sense that it's not natural. And he brought up this really interesting point to me that I've shared with people, and it just makes perfect sense. It's very black and white in my head. And when I read it, it wasn't. But then I read it again. I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. He was like, to say something is not natural, something, you're basically saying that it's impossible. If it's possible, it's natural. So it's like if two men can have intercourse, it may not be vaginal, but it's still possible. So it's still natural. Now, if I told you that it's wrong to fly, that's not natural. That's a true statement. Whereas being homosexual and saying that that's not natural is a false statement, because I can't fly. I can't grow wings. Now I can get into a machine that we build and I can fly wherever, but the ability for a human to swim for hours, impossible. The ability for me to climb up a tree 10 times quicker than a monkey, impossible. The ability for me to crawl under the dirt just as a human and outcrawl an animal that lives in the ground is impossible. The ability for me to fly across the ocean is impossible. The ability for a homosexual man to have sex with another man is possible, therefore natural. And it was honestly, it kind of relaxed my mind, because for some reason you don't understand things, and so it's not that you don't believe him or you don't support him. You just want to understand, and when the answer is that easy to understand, it just makes perfect sense. His books are really interesting, and I Here's a cool quote right here. Domesticated chickens and cattle may well be an evolutionary success story, but they are also among the most miserable creatures that have ever lived. The domestication of animals was founded on a series of brutal practices that only became crueler with the passing of the centuries. Censorship no longer works by hiding information from you. Censorship works by flooding you with immense amounts of misinformation, of irrelevant information, of funny cat videos until you're just unable to focus. That's it's pretty fucking true right there, man. That's interesting. Yeah, there used to be a time where you would watch the news and you wouldn't have like skeptical eyes. Like there would be a time where we would all watch the same news channel, or we wouldn't, or we would watch CNN or Fox, or like Good Morning America, the Today Show, which I think I used to watch, and there was news and it was like factual statements. It wasn't chopped up quotes. It was not intended to get an idea across and to push a message across. News used to just be fully upfront, and the intention was to just share the facts, and then you take the facts a certain way. And it wasn't until this weird time, 10 years ago, it probably really started happening when Facebook started coming out, and Twitter, Instagram, mainly those two. YouTube too, but like YouTube, Google, Twitter, Facebook, where it started to become that these people who never felt like they were heard, never felt like what they had to say was respected by other people. And then there's these platforms that, in order for me to put out a tweet, I put in an email, make a password, boom, I have a Twitter. I can put out the most outrageous things, the most ridiculous things. And as long as they don't put other people in danger, they won't get taken down. And then even that becomes blurry, like what is dangerous and what is not dangerous. Like using curse words and using racial slurs is not illegal. It's not against the law. I can't get arrested for it. But if you do it on Twitter and you do it at somebody, that's potentially dangerous. And I mean, it is dangerous. It's a racial action, and you should be in trouble for it. But it was a weird time where it was, if you didn't make it out on a news outlet, you weren't heard. And it's like, it's so strange because it's good and it's bad. And at first it was all good because then everyone could talk, and that's a good thing, right? You want to hear everyone's opinions. Like for abortion, for example, like, is abortion wrong or is it right? For me, it's if a woman wants to, have an abortion, by all means, who am I to say no? Now it becomes weird sometimes. Like, what if it's at 7, 8, 9 months, 6, 7, 8, 9 months? And then it becomes blurry. So it's not like anything, like all these major issues, it's not a yes and a no situation. But with these platforms and the way that everything is set up, like, and there's teams, and you can only have a yes or no. And if you don't have a yes or no, you're not heard. You're not heard because you don't get the retweets. Like, if I put out something like that on Twitter, it wouldn't get nearly as much traction if I put out something. This is obviously not what I believe in, but no woman should be allowed to get an abortion. I put that out, and then someone else puts out, all women should 100% be allowed to have an abortion. And then you hear things like that senator who said something like, it was on the lines of like a woman who, I forget what it was. I don't even want to say it, but it's dark. So everything's just, this is just weird. There's not a yes or no to anything. And then through these platforms, the things that get retweeted are yes and no answers. So then where it used to be, oh, I understand your point, I'm not going to argue it, I'm not going to try to take over your point, it's become black and white, yes or no, red and blue, that is it. And it's sad to see because it's not like that. Like, the average person does not, like, they're not like that. They have the ability to have some Republican ideas, have some socialist ideas, have some Democratic ideas, have some whatever ideas. And it's like, even if you are an independent and you're running for any office space, you must choose a color. You must be a donkey and elephant, red or blue. It's the only way you can make any progress. And it's like, nothing is yes or no. Nothing's ever been yes or no. And I think philosophy needs to make a big comeback, because we have to understand that these answers are not simple. I mean, to make a, I mean, to just say abortion is legal or illegal is absurd. I mean, it's got to be a long form, sit down, talk, conversation. But everyone's like so angry nowadays, and it's so weird to see, and it's just so confusing. It's just so confusing. And I think honestly, I think at this point, I think the majority of people are like, don't even find that shit exciting anymore. Like, it used to be cool to, like, you know, have the ability to potentially go viral and you would just say outrageous shit. And I mean, I used to be on Twitter all the time. I used to tweet. So Twitter used to do a thing where they would kick you off for like a few hours if you tweeted too much. And I used to do this shit all the time back in like middle school and high school. I used to do it all the time. But not understanding that what I was saying was just half-thought ideas. And it's like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to portray yourself in public that way. I don't think you do. I don't think that should be anyone's goal. I think, but at the same time, I do think you should be allowed to come back from certain things. You know, you should be allowed to survive. Like, in the same way that some people get called out for doing inappropriate things to people. And it's like, after they serve their time, like if someone gets out of jail for a crime, for a robbery, they can go back to the public and they have the ability to, it's like we all can see, oh, they pay for the crimes. Come back to society and see what you can do. But like in the social media world, it's like once you get kicked off of a platform, or once you get called out for something, you don't even, I mean, you can go through the whole process and you can even like not get in trouble for it, like found not guilty, or the person who came out and says something says, oh, I made this shit up, like it's happened before, but the person's life is still ruined. And it's like, that's wrong. Like there's no path to prove yourself to other people again that what you did was a mistake. And it's like apologizing isn't the answer anymore. And then you see things like in Portland of like these attacks on people. It's like, that's just like some third world country. Like, what is going on? It's all so confusing. Everyone's just angry. And I don't know. I always make this joke to people, and it's kind of a dark joke, but it's kind of funny, I think. We almost need like one good meteorite just to hit, to like get people, like shake people back up and like look around and start like really understanding what's valuable in life, like what's actually valuable, what actually means anything anymore, like what is important, what is not important. Like, what is not important? A lot of things that we deem as super important right now just don't mean shit. They never have meant anything. It's like if one meteorite just hit us, life would be just hard enough. And some people would be just running out of food. Some people would just be hungry, just thirsty enough that you would start actually finding ethical reasons to function throughout your day again. Like, you start looking at people not as enemies, but as just human beings. Like, the greatest feeling you can ever get is not when you help yourself, but when you help somebody else. They say thank you, or they look at you a certain way. I mean, that's the greatest thing, at least for me. And I know for a lot of people, it's like that has to be found again. I was having a dinner with my mother and my family a couple of days ago. I look at my mom, like, Mom, imagine if we all, like humans, had to, the only food you ate, you still had to hunt for. Like, what if we never developed and like perfected the practice of like domesticating animals? And she like laughs and jokes. She's like, oh man, we'd probably be going starving. We'd probably be starving. And I think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's funny. It's true. We probably would be. I mean, but we'd also probably be close as a family. I would also be close with my neighbors, because if we can all figure out a way to trap animals as a tribe, so my neighbors and my other neighbors around me, like the 4 houses around me, then we'd be closer together. I'd be closer with my parents, because then if we don't have a lot of food, we have to share. I think you would just start to appreciate the other person a little bit more. And like, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. We don't appreciate other humans. We don't understand that maybe somebody went through some shit in their life that completely destroyed them. And it's like, it's you. We don't do that anymore. Like, we don't want to listen to people's stories about how hard their life is. And it's like, I get it, but I mean, I put up a Instagram post yesterday just saying be kind to people, right? I mean, that's all it is. It's all you need to do. You just need to find happiness because the world's people are good. People are good people, and it's so strange. People are good because it's so strange. Every Christmas time you see it, it's like the world's like paused. Like between mid-November to December 26th. I mean, after that, shit just goes wild again. Like, get closer to New Year's. But, like, it's a different... I mean, people write songs about it. It's like a different feeling in the world. Things just feel safer. People feel better. People feel nicer. And then the farther you get from New Year's, it's like shit just goes haywire. It's like because during that time, you really have time to reflect on what happens. Like, oh, this person is not with us this year on our holiday. Like, fuck, man. It hits you. It hits you. And then you look around and you really think about the people who are there. It's like if we all did that, we wouldn't have time to worry about bullshit. Stuff that's stupid. Like fucking stupid shit, man. Like I watched something about there was a debate and the lady tells the crowd to stop clapping. You're triggering my anxiety. Now you first hear that and you're like, triggering anxiety. What the fuck does that mean? Like, grow a pair of balls. Like, but also just stop clapping. I mean, even if the person is acting like very sensitive and like a child and making up excuses, it gets to a point where it's like, well, you don't have to clap. Just listen. Like, what if you just take the higher route and you stop, right? Right? Is that a possibility or is it not a possibility? Or do we just get bored and we just start making up issues and we start just piling onto people, and then we hear something else and then we all run over there, and then we hear something else and we all run over there. It's like fucking nonsense, man. Like if someone comes up to you, just treat them like a human being, right? Treat them like a human. Like treat them like they're one of you, because they are. They come from a different place. They were raised a different way. They were taught different things, and it's like, okay, but it doesn't make them bad. I mean, they could be a bad person, but that doesn't make them automatically a bad human being because they were born in fucking Alabama and you were born in Manhattan. It's like everything that you think makes you different is completely constructed, because at the base, you're just a fucking person. But the way you view the world is not the way that the world is. It's the way that you view it, the way the people around you taught you for it to be. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what matters? And I used to write down, I still do, not all the time, but most of the time I do, and it's like, just write down, every morning I would wake up and I write down 4 things that actually matter to me. I think that's something that could help a lot of people. I really do. I think we have to feel for other people more. I do. I think conversation needs to be more in person too. I mean, dude, I'm 22, right? Everyone my age is all over social media. And don't get me wrong, I'm on a podcast right now talking to you guys. I'm all over social media. But when the opportunity arises to have a conversation face to face with somebody, take that shit. And just because they have a certain flag on the back of the car, just because they have a certain facial feature, like, I mean, you can't write them off. It's weird for me. I feel bad for people when they get upset, and when they are loud and trying to hurt other people. Like, okay, are they currently being a piece of shit? Absolutely. And I wouldn't argue that they're currently being a piece of shit, but you feel bad for them because they weren't always like that, right? You come out of the womb and you weren't like that. You were developed that way. You were taught that way. And I don't know where you went left when you should have went right, and when you went right when you should have went left, or when you should have paused and watched shit go by before you jumped to reactions and impulsive thoughts. But I don't know. Sometimes it's okay to feel bad for people. Um, I don't know. People are good. That's all. I mean, that's all I really gotta. That's all I really gotta say is that people are good people. And what I was saying about the brain at the beginning of the podcast. Sorry about that. I'm chewing ice. And I might have hit on this before, but I'll hit on it again. There's two accepted theories about how our brains developed size so fast in such a short period of time, from chimpanzee size to the size we're at now. There's two very accepted theories, and then there's one that I like a lot. I might have talked about it before. The first one is the fire theory. So basically, the theory is our ability to overcome the fear of fire and to control fire and to pick up and move fire allowed us to, well, a few things: fend off predators, which in turn would allow us to live longer, which would also allow us to, since you go fend off predators, you would be in a more isolated group. You could protect yourself, so then the family tribe and the family would become stronger knit because you would just stay isolated. Because if you're isolated, then you could figure out your surroundings right where you are. And the reason you couldn't do that before is because predators would come in, but through the source of fire, other animals are scared. So you could protect yourself, which would allow you to build a strong connection with your tribe. It also allow you to live a longer time around, so produce more offspring. But also the more important thing is it allowed you to cook food. So instead of just eating food that was raw and had a lot of bacteria in it and was killing you and killing everything very quickly, you could cook it down, which would increase the quality of the protein, but it also kill off a lot of the bacteria that would kill you, make you sick. So it allowed you to just get a higher quality food. And so that would make you stronger, faster, quicker, live longer, better for your body, blah, blah, blah. You fill in the rest. So that's one of them. And obviously, better increase in protein would be a better, healthier brain, fattier food. It would just be good for your brain. It allows your brain to grow. And then the other theory is the throwing arm theory, which I'm going to Google real quick. Basically, it's the idea that we came down from trees, and then as we moved out to the plains of Africa, we had to distance ourselves because we weren't fast. Okay. So humans developed longer waists, which allows the torso to rotate separately from the hips and generate the forces that stretch tendons and ligaments in the shoulder. As their arm is cocked, their shoulders also gradually move lower on their torsos, allowing the arm to jut out at an angle, and a chimp's shoulder puts his arms more in a vertical position. And humans developed an upper arm bone that twists, allowing a thrower to reach back at an almost unnatural angle and store energy. What we're going to do is push away throwers back in time. I'm trying to find, I know what it is, but I'm trying to find like the scientists list. Maybe that's it. Maybe not. So it would allow us to throw things and injure things and kill things, which would create distance between us and predators. It would also, which would allow us to get more food, be more protected. It also allowed us to become more stronger bipedal creatures. Like I said, longer torso. So it helped us go away from being 4 feet on the ground like a chimp to, well, they can go bipedal, but normally 4 feet, to becoming more bipedal, which in turn fixed our hips so we could run, and it increased the distance between me and the animal I'm trying to kill. And then, spears would come along. That way we could be protected. So those are the two theories. So increasing the distance between you and other animals, less people die, more food in your stomach, blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blank. But the one that I like the most is a gentleman by the name of Terence McKenna. He had a theory called stoned ape theory. And he believed, so this is from Google. I love this theory. It's interesting. He believed that psilocybin mushrooms were the evolutionary catalyst from which language, projective imagination, the arts, religion, philosophy, science, and all of the human culture sprang. McKenna's hypothesis concerning the influence of psilocybin mushrooms on human evolution is known as the stoned ape theory. So basically what he's saying is that as chimps were coming down from the trees, they were, at this time, Africa was more or less like a rainforest, so it was really wet, so there was a lot of mushrooms there to eat. And I've never taken a drug, like, ever, like, not marijuana or anything of that nature, which is kind of crazy to think about. But people who do trip off of certain drugs, especially psilocybin, say that they do feel like an increased, not level of intelligence, but imagination, freeing of the world, freeing of an ego kind of taken away, and a more accepting viewpoint of other people. So his theory was that if these chimps later become humans, were all basically eating these plants all day, every day, because they were constantly growing. There's a not gonna get into it, but that it allowed us to connect more at a mental level, and allowed us to have certain trips that made us start having imaginations of greater powers, gods, or at least like a family unit kind of feeling, or gave us certain ideas of what the world is, what it meant to be safe, advanced our thoughts, I guess, in a lack of better terms, elevated. It gave us an unconventional perspective of the world. And he thinks that is what basically was a springboard to human evolution. It's interesting. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about that. That could have potentially been it. Like, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Who the hell knows, dude? I don't know. And I think the cool thing is that we never will know exactly. But I think it's really cool to be able to read these books. And I haven't read his book yet, The Fear of Gods, I think it was, or The Food of the Gods. I haven't read it yet, but I will read it. And I think it's definitely interesting to at least one of his quotes: "We are an ape with a symbiotic relationship with a mushroom, and that has given us self-reflection, language, religion, and all the spectrum of human effects that flow from these things." There's another gentleman that literally believes that mushrooms are like the world, like they connect us, like internet, like we are the computer screen, and the mushrooms connect all of us together. And then the theory is that there's nutrients that are built into these mushrooms are in the soil, and then we eat the plants that come from the soil, and the animals that we kill eat the things that come from the soil, and that we all basically just hooked up to like this collective drug, and that's why we see the world that we do. I've always thought about it, like, what if, so our eyes are the most advanced part of our body, like part of our system, in the sense that they have been around the longest, and they have been the part of our body that has gone through the most change, evolutionary, and has had the most adjustments. I mean, sorry about that. Hopefully that wasn't loud. I mean, we see color, which is kind of let me look at it real quick. How many species see color? Mammals. Um, so it looks like here, basically, just mammals are the only things that see colors the way we do, particularly chimps and whatnot. If you just think about what the eyes do and the way the eyes work, it's so trippy if you really start diving deep into it. So it's like my left eye is connected to the right part of my brain, right? Like the wiring is. And my right eye is connected to the left part of my brain, as in the wiring. But if light hits my eye, it goes off a mirror and then it reflects an image. So the image actually comes into my eye, reflects, and then what I'm seeing is the world as it is. I don't know. I've thought about this. It's a little crazy to think about. It makes me sound a little nuts, more nuts than you probably already think I am after you sat through this 50-minute podcast. So if it's the most adjusted and evolutional part of a body that's gone through the most change and adaptations, what if like our eyes are just connected to a like an all-knowing power, or like a video game world, or like a simulation of a different universe, and that the way that our eyes are working, so we're actually fed an image into our eyes before they come into our eyes, and then that image that we're actually seeing that's coming into our brain is taken by this other species of this other world, and then is fed like what we are supposed to see. Like, what if I'm looking at a camera right now, looking at you guys right now in the eyes? What if that camera is actually a waterfall, but the world that controls my vision has a direct translation: waterfall equals video camera in human world, and then so our entire world is fed to us through a different world, through the eyes. And that like, I don't know. I don't like that's just a thought I've had, because you see some eyes and you see some animals' eyes. Like you see a reptile eyes, you're like, that's a monster. Like if you see a snake's eyes, or even if you look into like a cat's eyes, it's just like the shape. It's like we have this innate fear of a certain shape. Like if I see a circle, I feel softer. I feel safer, I guess. But if you see like a octagon, you think almost not danger. Well, I think danger because I think stop signs, and stop signs are red, and red to me is danger, fire, blood, whatever, death. But if you see a certain shape with like pointy edges, like a reptile, they have a long, skinny shape. And then you see like a cat's eyes, it's like a little tiny dot, but like long too. And you think fear. You see like a spider's eyes, and they have like 12 eyes. Like 12 pupils, and that shit just scares the fuck out of you, because you don't know. It's like the unknown that is so scary. And you see, like, if you saw someone's eyes who get like really, really scared, they get so big. If you see someone panicking, their eyes get so large, and that's scary too. You know, that's terrifying too, because you just don't know. It's like the unknowing that's like the scariest things that in the world. And like eyes in themselves are just such a unique part of our bodies that just they allow us to just take in information, and once it comes into our bodies, like let's say what I said is completely wrong, which it most likely is, or at least if it's not, I hope it is wrong. I hope I never find out what the truth is. I hope I just I hope I only, out of all the lives I ever live, I hope I only live this one. I don't want to live any other life. That's crazy. Oh, okay. Here's another one. This is something that I completely theorized on my own, and then I've read something somewhere, and it kind of like proved it almost right. So you know how they say you are your parents, like you are your parents, like you have certain personality traits, you look like them, blah blah blah, whatever. So I was reading, maybe it's not mine. It's probably not mine actually. I probably glued it together from a bunch of different pieces. I was reading a book, and it was stating that. I was reading Behave by Robert Sapolsky. Great book. Jesus Christ. That book literally has, like, I look at this chimp's eyes right up there in that pillow. Those are my eyes. Like, I'm looking at myself, just with more hair, more muscle mass. For some reason, they didn't get on the evolution bus train. But like that's me. That's me right there. So he can kill me with his arms because he's 20,000 times stronger than me. But like, you know how they say, well, in this book he's basically stating that like what a father does at the age of 10, 12, 14, all the way up to when they actually produce a child, their offspring can affect their kids. So the way they act, the way they act in certain situations, their behavior traits, if they're an impulsive person, if they're a scared person, if they're a risky person, if they're a non-risky person, if they're an anxious person, it can have a chemical reaction in the brain that can permanently affect or certain memories, like an Indian tribe or any type of tribe. There's stories that get passed down from generation after generation after generation. What if like the memory inside sperm, because like so that's true, right? Like the things that that my dad did when he was a young kid affected the way I was born, you know? Let me look that up. Maybe you don't have to believe me, but anyways, this is something I read, and it's like that's true, at least as far as I know. That the life that my dad lived, just my dad, because that's where I come from. That's where all women come from. They come from their father. They sperm, and then it's produced into you inside of your mother. So you're basically transferred at a certain time in your development as a zygote. And then so that you develop certain behavior characteristics about you, personality traits, the way you look, because of what you did, what your father did at a certain age. Now, what if, like in the same way that those stories are passed down generation after generation, even through like my kinship, and then especially through like hunter and gatherers of modern day and like Indians or whatever. It's this crazy theory that I thought of, like, what if those memories? I listen to my dad; he tells me whatever, and I remember it. But then I start translating it to my kids. Then my son or my daughter hears it, or my son, he hears it because, and then he tells his offspring. What if memories are passed down through sperm? I'm looking at that right now. Are memories passed through sperm? This article is called Dads Pass On More Than Sperm, 2018, July 26th. Seminal research reveals that sperm change their cargo as they travel the reproductive tract, and differences can have consequences for fertility. It is likely the case that there are repercussions of using testicular. Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of inherences that we haven't yet explained, but animals are not just their DNA. However, Connie colleges that different doesn't always mean worse. Testicular and epidermal sperm from humans have helped and continue, whatever. It's very bizarre to see them lose viability and gain it back. Whatever. To test these particular RNAs, and a worse trauma has noted while epigenetic cargo of testicular sperm and late epidermal sperm. One of the most powerful members of epigenetic toolkit is a class of molecules called small RNAs. Small RNAs can conceal genetic information from the cellular machinery that carries out their instructions, effectively ghosting genes out of existence. The legacy of a dad's behavior can even lie in the child's in his children if his epigenetic element entered embryo. For instance, mice born to fathers that experience stress can inherit the behavior consequence of traumatic memories. Additionally, mouse dads with less than desirable diets can pass a wonky metabolism onto their kid. Ufna Sharma and Colin Canine, both working under Oliver Rondo, professor of biochemistry at the University of Massachusetts Medicine School, were some of the researchers to report such findings in 2016. In the work, Sharma and Coney noted that in mice, while immature testicular sperm contain DNA identical of that of mature sperm, immature sperm relay different epigenetic information. It turns out the sperm's small RNAs undergo post-testes turnover, picking up the intel of their father's physical health or lack thereof after they're manufactured, but before they exit the body. However, the exact pit stop at which whatever. It's possible to inherit memories, epigenetics, in the study of inherited genes, changes in gene expression, changes that are inherited, but they are not inherited to our DNA. For instance, life experience, which aren't directly coded in human DNA, can actually be passed on to children. So I don't know what I just said. Can DNA hold memories? Scientists have long assumed that memories and learned experiences built up during a lifetime must be passed on by teaching later generations or through personal experience. However, new research has shown that it is possible for some information to be inherited biologically through chemical changes that occur in DNA. So, to end off the podcast, what I'm saying is for anybody out there doing reckless things, you're just saying, I have one life, I'm going to live one life. Now, if you really want to be a family person, if you want to be a family man, if you want to be a family woman, just remember that your behavior choices right now are going to go straight to your sperm, and it will affect your offspring in the future. I know that was a roller coaster of a podcast, guys, and hopefully you guys enjoyed some of it. I don't know what episode this was. I have no idea. I think this might have been episode 9. Closing on episode 10. That means we will be having guests on in the near future once school starts and I find out a schedule. With that being said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed episode 9 of the podcast, The Michael Lab Show. Very self-conceited. I'm a narcissistic asshole. I'm just kidding. I take that back. I am not, but I could be. Who knows? I don't know what I am. Am I alive? I am a planet. Am I human right now? Or am I just a player 1 in Jack and Dexter? Am I just Luigi or Mario that somebody picked? Somebody just picked me. Did you know the idea of infinity? Basically, and this is from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Infinity is so big that it translates to me talking to you right now, this camera, saying this word, holding this mic like this with this human brain, that light on me is happening not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5 times, but it's happening infinity times. So this exact thing going on right now is happening infinity times. That's infinity. Let that blow your mind. I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast right here. If you guys enjoyed this episode and you guys are listening on audio platforms, please leave it a rating. Please leave it a good rating. Please tell your friends about it. It's up on all major podcasts. So if they have Apple, tell Apple. They have SoundCloud. Let them know. Spotify. Whatever it is, please leave it a positive rating. 5 stars. Whatever you think I deserve. Please tell your friends and family about it. Social media is huge, but the word of mouth is the best. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys in the next episode of The Michael Lab Show. That was episode 9. I'll catch you guys on episode 10. Thank you so much. Have a great, great day.